Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. Welcome today to my full review of the Seiko King Samurai, almost exactly 12 months after I reviewed the Seiko King Turtle. And I really enjoyed the King Turtle, so much so I included it in my top 5 bottom 5 video of 2021, and it was in the positive half, the half that you want to be in. I argued that this was Seiko's answer to the micro-brand insurgency, them trying to claw back a bit of market share from people who had drifted away because they weren't offering the specs that micros were. Those specs including ceramic bezel inserts and sapphire crystal. It's the sapphire that is the key here for me. That's a big factor in my purchasing decisions, whether a watch has mineral or it has sapphire. In fact, I'm struggling to see why anybody would buy a regular Turtle or a regular Samurai these days, especially considering the price gap is not much between the regular ones and the Kings. But having looked at both, now do I prefer the Turtle or the Samurai? Stay tuned for that one. Now, if you are in Australia, I got mine from Watson's Jewelers in Tasmania. I'll leave a link in the description of the video. Neil did me a deal. I'm sure he will do you a deal as well. If you're further afield, if you're in the States, check out eBay. I found this model for less than $370. As I said, not a million miles away from the price we used to happily pay for a regular Samurai. Let's flip the camera and have a look at it. By way of illustration, this is the cheapest regular Samurai that I found on ebay.com. $330, so $40 cheaper. That's about 12% cheaper. That is a no-brainer. I appreciate this one's the paddy. The paddy used to be a bit special. I don't think the paddy is a bit special anymore. All you really get is a better box. And let's be honest, what's a box? It's just going to occupy cupboard space anyway. One thing to take note of though is warranty. If you buy it from the boutique, you'll get 5 years. Authorized dealer, 3 years. If you buy it grey market, most of the eBay retailers are grey market, you will only get 1 year. So that should be a factor in your thinking as well. So this is the SRPE35 K1. This is a Malaysian made model. There is the J1 equivalent made in Japan. I've never really thought it's worth spending too much extra on the J rather than the K. If it's a special watch or you know it's a keeper and you've got a little bit of extra money, by all means go ahead, but I don't think it makes a massive difference in terms of the quality. Let's put it that way. But you certainly get plenty of watch for your money with a Samurai. It's big and it weighs quite a bit. It doesn't disguise its weight particularly well, the big Sam. So again, do bear that in mind also. I measure it at 43 mil in diameter with a thickness of 13.3. 48 lug to lug though, so it is quite wearable, though as you can see there, those end links, the mid links do protrude a little bit, but they do point down at the same time. 22 millimeter lugs, tapering down 2.5 mil to 19.5, back up to 22.5 at the clasp. Sized up for me, I told you she wasn't light, 189 grams. Now the Samurai, so called because really it's that hour hand, it's got that kind of sword shaped hour hand. Also because of the angles, that's the major difference to my eyes anyway between the Turtle and the Samurai. The Turtle's all about the cushion case and the curves, the Sam not so much, it's all about the angles. If I show you that one though, it does taper in towards the wrist, so it doesn't feel like a particularly big watch in that sense in terms of the amount of watch that sits on the wrist, but yeah, it can't disguise its weight, I'm afraid. Case finish is pretty simple, brushed throughout, semi-guarded crown there, doing a reasonable job. Those two again angled upwards. The crown is one of the standout features on the Samurai, knurled just about perfect. I actually retrofitted a Samurai crown onto one of my SKXs recently. It sticks out a little bit, but boy is it easy to grip. Similarly, the bezel is also knurled. As I said, this is a proper tool watch and one you should be able to grip with wet fingers, no problems at all. There is quite a bit of rattle from those end links though, not the best fit that I've come across. The bracelet itself is okay, it is quite comfortable on wrist. They look like 3 links and they've gone some way to jazzing it up a little bit by putting a high polish edge to the bottom end of the mid link, but they are only single links there, so no articulation at all. And the clasp should be familiar to anyone who has looked at another Turtle or Samurai review. Fold over, double security pusher, 4 holes of micro adjust, pressed upper, pressed lower, but it does have a diver's extension. Like I said, this is a proper tool. My nails are too short, I keep them really trim for the channel. Hang on a second. There we go, a little bit cheap, a little bit rattly, but if you are popping this one over a wetsuit at the weekend, That'll certainly help. Screw on stainless steel case back with Seiko's signature Great Wave style tsunami in the middle there, embossed against the high polish. Diver's watch 200 meters because this one is ISO certified, and the X down there signifying this is part of the Prospex range, as are all the other Samurais. One key difference though between this and the rest of them is the sapphire crystal as advertised just on the right. One key similarity is the 4R35 as advertised on the left. 24 dual hacking and bi-directional winding, roughly 40-hour power reserve, running at 3 Hz, 21,600 vibrations per hour. We have all seen a million of these by now, and that's okay because look at that set of numbers. Beat error perhaps a little higher than I would have hoped for from a brand new watch, but running pretty much spot on, coming in -1, -2, 0, +1, floating around that area anyway. I reckon I must have seen at least 250 to 300 Seiko 4R NH movements on the channel over the last 4.5 years. Do you know how many DOAs I've had? Do you know how many that I've opened the box and have been duffers? 2. I reckon less than 1% failure rate. That is amazing considering how cheap these little things are. But let's take this one outside and have a look at the dial, the hands, and that shiny bezel insert in natural light, because I think this watch really benefits from natural light. That ceramic bezel insert is a standout, I think. It does make this watch a little more blingy than the aluminium bezeled equivalent. You have to be okay with that. That will be noticeable more in the pocket shot that I show you in just a minute or two. I really like it though. I think it suits the watch overall. Similarly, that gold second hand just adds a touch of colour, combining with the gold text on the dial. But everything else is pure samurai. Applied indices, large, triangle-ish up there at the 12, and smaller but still pretty big, let's be honest, truncated triangles at the 6 and 9, big chunky batons everywhere else. There is an angled chapter ring with minute markers, 5-minute markers and 1/5 of a minute markers, also in black to match the dial and the bezel insert. The bezel insert has standard dive watch style grading with Arabics at 20, 30, 40 and 50, 5s and singles everywhere else, and a recessed lume pip there at 12 o'clock, again set in a truncated triangle, much like the indices at 6 and 9. The Seiko logo itself is applied in silver, and the Prospex X and automatic just printed in white, above that Divers with an apostrophe 200 meters, which is in gold. If we go in a little closer, you can see a couple of features that are unique to this King Samurai. The most obvious one being the Cyclops. Now the King Turtle has a candy bar Cyclops. This only has a date complication, so it has a regular style Cyclops. I know it's a bit controversial. I think it quite suits the overall look. And then of course you have that checkerboard finish quite deeply etched into the dial. Again, I really like it. I think it adds a little extra something. Seikos can look a bit austere, they can look a bit samey. I think the hour hand, the Cyclops, checkerboarding, the gold, all adds up to make this one just a little bit special. And then there's the lume. Usually get solid lume from a Seiko dive watch, and this King Samurai is no exception. Lume bright, plenty of it, big hands, big indices as mentioned, still going like a train at the end of the 20 minutes, no problems there. I guess the problems with the Samurai and this King Samurai is no different. For me anyway, start when I get it on wrist. I've always felt it was just a little bit too big for me. I've got a 7-inch wrist for your reference. I don't think it looks ridiculous, and you know, it doesn't wear badly. 48 lug to lug helps with that, but it just weighs a bit much for me personally at 190 grams. These clasps are long, which helps it hug the bottom side of your wrist. If you've got a smaller wrist than I have, maybe it will be too long for you, but they're not particularly heavy. It's kind of cheap pressed uppers and lowers, so there isn't much weight to balance out the top heavy head of the watch. Legibility is excellent though, thanks to the big handset and the big indices, and look at how that pretty ceramic bezel glints in the light. Same in natural light, the ceramic bezel insert glinting away today in Sydney. Combine that with the texture of the crown and the bezel, plus the brush finish to the hands, the little bit of colour here and there, and I think you've got a very handsome big watch overall. On wrist, while the bracelet may not be the most technically adept in its class by any stretch of the imagination, they don't wear too badly. They're all quite comfortable, and the watch itself is high polished on the other side, so it sits comfortably on wrist as well. This one's all about the angles. At least those angles are helping you out a little bit. The lugs do point downwards. And finally, the pocket shot that I referenced earlier on, I think here more than anywhere else, when I move the watch in and out of my pocket, when I angle my wrist back and forth, you can really see how dynamic that ceramic bezel insert is and how much it changes the whole look and feel of this watch. It really does take it up a notch. The only question is, why did it take them so long therefore to do it? The answer is because they're Seiko. Moans and niggles then, well, unsigned crown, it may be fantastic, but it would have been even more fantastic with a Seiko S there. Rattly end links as noted, bracelet lets down the head of the watch a little bit, and yeah, cheap pressed rather than milled, even if it is comfortable. And the perennial question you have to ask with any Seiko is, does it all line up? And the answer you usually get is, no. I've talked about this numerous times before. As Seiko have pushed their prices up over the last 3 or 4 years, it's best to look into their back catalogue to look for models that they were making before they started to turn the screw. The Samurai and the Turtle, of course, are 2 of those models. Welcome upgrades here, I think. The sapphire crystal, the ceramic bezel insert, notable upgrades to the dial, the hands, and that Cyclops. I know some people can take or leave it. I don't mind it on both of those watches. For me though, it's the Turtle that always has the edge over the Samurai. I just think it carries its weight, it carries its size a little better, and it is generally more comfortable. Not that the Samurai is uncomfortable, but it is very much an aesthetic choice. And if this one speaks to you, buy it with confidence and the John was seal of approval. So there you have it, the Seiko King Samurai. Is it perfect? No, it's not. Is it pretty good value for the specs, for the watch, for the design, and for the brand that you're getting? Absolutely. I still have the Turtle though. If you're keen on this style of watch, why not check out the review of the King Turtle? If you find these two are a bit big for your wrists, why not check out my review of the Mini Turtle instead? Thanks for watching, I'll see you soon.